All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the SoulCast, where we interview the biggest names, the players you want to hear from, and hopefully we're making it interesting and entertaining for everybody. I am Scott, aka Zhang on the boards. My usual co-host this time around, Billy, aka Funked. He's actually going to sit this one out. Today is Mother's Day, and he actually had some family stuff going on. And not only do we have a lot of ton of fighting game community stuff going on now, we always have to remember that there's personal responsibilities. We do this for free. We don't get paid. It's not our job or anything. So with Mother's Day happening this weekend, and specifically today, I'm sure everyone out there can relate. But he'll be back with us next time. To be honest, I actually wasn't even expecting to do this podcast every week, but there's so much to cover, as I mentioned, with a lot of fighting game stuff going on that we've had to step it up a little bit and do a little bit more than we expected to at first. But anyway, continuing with our Evo qualifier coverage, so to speak, and in lieu of Bibulus and the rest of those guys starting on the player wiki, shout out to those guys on the front page. I'm sure most people have seen that. Great idea, by the way. But I would like to introduce our guest for this episode from Ohio and lucky bastard with 2 Evo qualifiers in his state, Mr. Sluch. What's going on, dude?
Oh, what's going on, Scott? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing really well, actually. I'm really excited to have you on. You're not the first, dual player on, so to speak, who plays more than just Caliber. But I know you as a Tekken primarily player, and
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware, most of your background is in Tekken. So I want to start off by kind of with every other guest that we've done, give us a little bit of a rundown on your history, and specifically at least fill me in. How did you come across SC, and when did you make that decision to start picking that up?
Awesome. Actually, good questions there, Scott. I'd probably say when I first got into fighting games, that would probably have to be around summer 2006. Essentially, like I was, of course, as you know me, I'm a big Tekken head. I love Tekken. Like that is my game right there. And I've always loved it, and I've always like loved playing Tekken, but I always kind of wondered like, hey, is there just like more to this game, like in terms of just like high level competition? Are there tournaments for this game actually? And back in those days, that was actually Tekken 5.0 was out at the time. So I was just kind of wondering, okay, like what's going on here? Like where can I actually, find out like all this stuff? And more or less, like with me, like what I actually, I guess, amazingly enough, like I like stupidly stumbled across was Tekken Zaibatsu. And I was like, "Ooh, I like this." Pretty much like once like I saw like Tekken Zaibatsu and like just seeing like, oh my goodness, there's just like there's so much to this website in terms of, hey, this is where like you can go for tournaments. Hey, this is stuff that you can do like with characters and character specifics in terms of not only just like what your moves are, but what your properties are, what your frame data is, what you can use for juggles. All this just completely like blew my mind. Like I was flabbergasted and with, I guess I should say, awe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like I was just like, wow, like this is really freaking amazing. And the more and more like I was just like, like kind of just reading that stuff and like reading about like tournaments, I'm like, yeah, like I really do want to get competitive because pretty much like before Tekken Zaibatsu, I mean, I was just one of those scrubs. It's like, oh hey, yeah, like I know moves and I can do moves. I'm cool. I'm awesome. I'm the best. Shit, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, like once you start getting into like like playing against like really good people or people that actually know like what they're doing, then you're like, wow, like you're like your eyes are just like completely like they just got opened up wide, and now like, hey, this is what goes on in terms of competitive fighting games, and this is what it's all about. So that was like really cool, and that's I guess pretty much like my start in terms of like how I got into competitive gaming was Tekken. But in terms of Soul Calibur, like when I first started getting to that, I always loved the series. Like even like back just like Soul like the early Soul Calibur 1, Soul Calibur 2, Soul Calibur 3 days. Even played like some of the other games like before that, but not like really competitive, I should say, like in the least bit. I'd probably say like once I really started getting competitive into Soul Calibur was Soul Calibur 4, and I really loved that game to death. Like it was awesome and easily probably like my second favorite fighting game next to Tekken. But unfortunately for me, I guess like transitioning from Soul Calibur 4 to Soul Calibur 5, the characters that I actually mained were at first Sung Mina, and I love Sung Mina to death. Like she just basically she fit my playstyle perfectly. I thought like she could play at range. She could be really annoying, poke, space out people, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. But then I realized that she's probably one of the worst characters in the game, and I kept on getting just freaking annihilated by the other characters in the game. So I'm like, okay, like I definitely need another character to pick up in this game. So that's when I actually went to Amy, and I really loved Amy a lot just because she was for the most part relatively safe, and damn, did she have some like really good stuff in terms of like pressure and just like really good juggle capability and combo capability. So I was just like, yeah, like this is right up my alley. But it kind of sucked for this game that none of those characters transitioned into Soul Calibur 5. So at first I'm not gonna lie, Scott, like I was really pissed, and then I was really nervous as hell because I was thinking, oh gosh, like none of my characters are in this game. There's a whole bunch of like new characters in here, and like a whole bunch of like palette swaps in terms of like old characters coming into the Soul Calibur 5 universe, and I'm like, who the hell am I gonna pick up? I don't even have a clue as of like who I'm gonna use. And I started like just kind of like looking around and like doing just a little bit of research, and then I amazingly enough stumbled across Viola, and I was just like, oh hey, like I kind of like this character. It's like not only does she seem like she's really annoying in terms of like really good like like safe pokes and like like nice like like I guess close combat like mix-ups and stuff like that, but she can actually kind of play pretty decently from far away as well. So I'm like, you know what? This is kind of like a best of both worlds for me because it's like almost kind of combining like a little bit of like how I used to play with Sung Mina with a little bit of how I used to play with Amy. And then once I just started getting into like how to use Viola and like just playing Soul Calibur 5, I was in it.
Nice.
Like I'm hooked.
Very nice. Yeah, I know. When Soul Calibur 5 first came out, we were everybody's looking through the characters, and at least those who didn't really play Soul Calibur 3 or Soul Calibur 4, they're looking at 5 and they're like, okay, so I hear this game is going to be good. I haven't played Soul Calibur in a while, so who am I going to play? So, naturally, myself, Billy as well, and, a lot of older players who ended up coming back, they're looking at the new characters, trying to figure out who they're going to play and who they like. And I remember you look at a fighting game and you kind of mess around with certain characters, and most stance characters or characters that have, let's call them like an extracurricular part of their design, whether it be stance or, whatever, usually they're sort of gimmicky, and it's kind of obvious. Okay, this is a gimmicky character. If this character is able to win, it's usually based around those gimmicks. And you see Viola, and like we could all just tell, okay, this character, she doesn't seem busted or anything, but there's some sort of hidden depth there. There's something. It's not a gimmicky sort of, that ball is. It's not a gimmicky sort of stance. It's something that is gonna be good, eventually. And then now with the patch and everything, you have I know Kiev, he busted it out trying to come back at the MLG qualifier against, or not qualifier, but the MLG or Spring Arena against Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. So, that I think that's when everybody kind of realized, everybody, people, the top players, they know that Viola is good. It's not not some sort of secret. They just haven't, busted her out yet. They're kind of holding her in the background as a kind of a secret thing. So with that being said, there's not a lot of Viola players out there, and if there are, they're not playing Viola very much, kind of like the Kiev example that I just gave. So if I recall correctly, I think you're the only Viola player to place, at least in the U.S. major. And I apologize if I'm incorrect about that, but I'm pretty sure you are, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on. But kind of to transition into my next topic, the main reason that I brought you on is because of Seasons Beatings. We obviously want to get some coverage for that, and we want to cover the EVO qualifiers. So we kind of already covered how you got into SCV or Soul Calibur in general. So based on Soul Calibur, your experience with it, and with Seasons Beatings, I actually have two questions. First, how many people were at the tournament? Because that information I actually didn't look up.
Actually, coincidentally enough, here's the funny thing about SummerSlam, or Seasons being SummerSlam, is that even though it was a major, it really felt like to me that it was not a major at all. Essentially, there was exactly 16 people there for Soul Calibur 5. That was it. So, like, in all honesty, Power Up actually doubled those numbers. So that's just like, to me, like, I was kind of like mind-boggling. But one of the things, like, I think, like, partially, like, or there's actually a few things I think that, like, just partially contributed, I guess, to like the low turnout there. First and foremost, I mean, of course, as we know, there's just so many Evo qualifier events.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm probably thinking that, like a lot of people were thinking, oh, hey, like, I'll just go to this one and like skip this one and that one. So like that probably like, played definitely like a huge part into like the numbers showing up. But one of the things that was actually really weird about SummerSlam was that I'm going to be honest, it kind of chapped my ass too, Scott, is that on 8-Way Run, nothing was posted up about Seasons being SummerSlam at all.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because as Seasons beating or SummerSlam had just ended when we did the Hawkeye podcast, and while we were doing the podcast, and anyone who's listening to these, you can go back in and listen to this, but we were talking about EVO qualifiers, et cetera, and I was like, does anybody know who won SummerSlam? Because I don't remember seeing anything about it. And then I had to go, like, while we were recording, I had to go and look at it, and we chatted about it a little bit. But I was like, oh, that's cool. In fact, the funniest thing is I found those results. I didn't even find them on 8-Way Run. I went to Shoryuken because it was on the front page. So I was like, oh, well, maybe they have the Soul Calibur results as well. So clicked over there. I was like, oh, sure enough, they have the top 3 right there. And just a quick note for all of our listeners. As far as I'm aware, there's not too much going on until UFGT. So I, especially because of the ESOM podcast a while back, I do plan on getting Ryujin on for those who are looking for some Zeba, goodness, or some hear from Zeba player. We'll get him on as well. So I just wanted to, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I thought that was really weird too. Like, this is an Evo qualifier. Why would 8-Way Run not post anything up about it? But
okay, here's the weird thing about that, Scott. Since no one posted up like anything going on about like Seasons being SummerSlam at all, I actually posted up. So basically what went on in terms of like SummerSlam. Like, I basically just did a copy and a paste from SRK to 8-Way Run, and I was just kind of thinking, this is kind of weird. Like, I'm not even a tournament organizer for this game or for this tournament at all, but I'm the one that's doing this.
Yeah, well, my thoughts, there's probably 2 reasons, and you probably, I mean, I'm sure that the guys who run SummerSlam more than I do, obviously, but I'm thinking that there's probably 2 reasons that we didn't get any updates on 8-Way Run. One, there's a lot of stuff going on right now, so I'm sure that the guys, and myself included, who usually post on the front page or homepage of 8-Way Run, they're trying to keep up with all these events, so they might have just missed it. And the second thing is that it seems to be the guys who run SummerSlam, like it's more devoted to the 2D stuff, so you're gonna hear more about it on SRK. So they're not, really inclined to go over to 8-Way Run and post up their results. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that was basically it too. I mean, it's like basically like SummerSlam typically, or I should say, pardon me, Seasons Beatings is really known for essentially the 2D games, fighting games. Like that's pretty much like what they're known for. I mean, the Marvel and the Street Fighter. So it's just like that's, I guess, their cup of tea right there, and that's really what they kind of focus and concentrate on. So I guess just I know things happen in terms of just hey, it's there's so much going on, and there's so much we have to cover. So I can understand I guess why it could be overlooked, but at the same time I was just damn, man, that just kind of sucks, man, because it really did bum me out that no one even attempted to post anything about it. I'm
you're God damn it, why didn't anybody talk about me getting second? What the fuck? But
well, what's funny, I posted up the aftermath thread over there on 8-Way Run as well. So,
man, and
so it's kind of like, yeah, I'll just take it upon myself again. Like I don't care. I'll do this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and that's kind of how I feel sometimes. Like, yeah, no one else is gonna do it. Whatever, I'll just do it. But so before I get to my next question, I do want to give like a little shout out. Speaking of like updates, for those who whether or not you go to the front page of 8-Way Run or not, I want to give a shout out to Spider, who's been doing the armory. And even despite the fact that he actually didn't include anything about SummerSlam, it's like the title of it says Weekly Media Roundup, so I'm not too surprised that I didn't include tournament results. But he's I don't know. I remember. I want to say like the first one actually had a little bit of a tournament schedule, but the most recent one was pretty much devoted to media. But in either case, I want to give a shout out to him because there are not enough and this includes SRK, TZ, whatever. There is so much out there with in terms of like videos and all of this information. I mean, it's so scattered that I'm really happy to see that somebody's taking it upon themselves to kind of collect everything and just do a weekly update and let everybody know, hey, here's all the stuff that happened this week. Check it out, blah, blah, blah. So kind of to, just kind of go along with the whole update sort of a thing that we were talking about. I really encourage people, to take a look at that because Spider's doing a great job of collecting all that stuff. And not only is it informative, but some of the stuff they puts into that is pretty fucking funny. So definitely check that out, and hopefully he can give us a shout out next week. So yeah, just a little bit of a tangent there, but back to season's beatings. Despite the fact that there wasn't a huge turnout or anything like that, I mean, it's obvious that there were still some good players there. Obviously, Ryujin, very good player, and there was a lot of talk about him, especially after one of some of our earlier podcasts. So based on your performance, how would you grade that? I mean, do you think that you're making strides? Do you think maybe you just kind of got there because Viola, no one really knows her yet? Or how? I mean, give an accurate assessment of how you think you played during that tournament.
During that tournament, I'd probably say I played pretty well. I would actually even go further to the point that I think that, in all honesty, I learned a lot more from that tournament than anything, which was like, it was a very big plus, like, especially like, for me and like in terms of like how I'm playing the game right now. I'd probably say like, just like in terms of like how I play Viola, it's a little similar to how like I play Tekken. It's just I basically annoy and frustrate the hell out of my opponent. And then once I get them to that point where it's like, okay, they're frustrated because I'm just poking and, just like doing all kinds of like just, movement and shit like that to piss them off. And then essentially once like, I start doing that, I start opening them up. And what's really nice with Viola is that the reason why like I really love her is that her offense is just phenomenal. Like it is so great just because she has not only like just so many moves that are relatively quick, that are safe, but once you basically, get that orb set, and then you really like, start like, divulging into like, orb mix-ups and orb traps. Yeah, it's pretty nasty, man. Like even like I've played against like a lot of Viola myself, and I'll tell you, it's really frustrating to actually fight against.
Yeah, and I've actually mentioned it, I think, in the podcast before. Like, the 4B Brave Edge, especially. Like one of my biggest problems with her, or I should say, one of the reasons I think she's so strong, is that unlike other characters where you can kind of, I don't want to say set up. Set up seems like a bad word, but so I can't really think of anything better than setups, but you can like set up your just guards in a sense where you're like, okay, I put you in this situation where I'm actually, -4 or 5, whatever it happens to be. And it's like a perfect disadvantage for me to bait you into doing something so that I can just guard it. But with her and the ball, like she has all these multi-hit strings, that are just really confusing, and the timing between each hit is really goofy. And I just mentioned the 4B Brave Edge. Like for those out there, go ahead and try to practice just guarding that, because it's fucking hard. Like, it's retarded hard. So it's I feel like she has a little bit of advantage when it comes to that thing, because even though you can just guard her, obviously, with if you're on the ball and you're playing well, you can not to be too obvious with my puns there, but if you're playing well and you got your just guards and you're feeling good about it, obviously you can just guard her, but it's far more difficult than you would imagine, especially if you're used to playing against other characters. So
precisely, and that's what makes, to me, like Viola like so difficult, like just to really fight against, because basically like just how like her offense is like set, or like how you can revolve your offense, you can differentiate your timing between a whole lot of things and mix it up. So it's just like you might be thinking one thing, but you might get hit with another thing, and you're just like, whoa, like I wasn't even expecting that, and it's very confusing, and you're just like, okay, now what the hell am I going to do? So it makes it really scary to fight against her, especially like if a Viola player is actually mixing up their offense very well, and basically just essentially setting you up for like really good and like various traps with her orb. And it, like I said, man, it is really difficult to actually like try to get around that. Like even I like like I feel really comfortable fighting against Viola now, just because I've done it so many times, I guess. But even still, like even if I like with me being comfortable with the matchup, I still really don't like playing a matchup, and it's my own damn character.
Yeah. No, I actually feel you there, and I know that there's a lot of other people out there that they have problems with mirror matches, and it's not that they don't feel comfortable with it. It's just you understand how dangerous your own character is, so it makes you play a little differently. So I think a lot of people can relate to that. So we mentioned Ryujin a little bit, and you sort of glossed on the fact that you learned a bunch at this tournament. So aside from him, what other players of the 16 that were there, what other players kind of made an impression on you, and what sorts of things did you learn?
Oh, okay. Well, I can definitely say like what I learned the most was definitely from playing Ryujin. I'll just start off right there on that track. Basically against playing with like against him, I've actually seen him play before, so I kind of like I was sort of expecting like like how he would play, or like what he was going to try to do against me, like in case like like I actually did meet up with him. And coincidentally enough, yeah, we actually met up in both winners and grand finals there. But what's kind of amazing is that he actually switched up his fighting style completely, like that day. Like no joke. Like essentially what he did, like how he usually fights, like he's pretty much more of like a in your face type of offensive Jiba, but when he fought against me, completely defensive. And I'll be honest, like I did not adapt fast enough at all, and I pretty much got lit the hell up.
which is saying something too, because as far as like Tekken is concerned, one of the reasons that a lot of people are so scared of you, and one of the reasons that you're such a good player, is because you're such a defensive player and you're so able to adapt. So I mean that, at least to me, that says a lot that he's able to switch up his fighting style and just completely throw you off.
Oh yeah, like it was incredible, because like pretty much like, of course, as we know, like Jiba definitely has one of like the best backsteps in the game. So with me like trying to like I was actually just basically going on a like my usual game plan of like trying to like frustrate him with like good style pokes, and then start like incorporating my like orb traps and orb mix-ups. I couldn't even get that established at all. It's just like if I tried anything, since basically Viola's range is so short with her claw, like I couldn't really touch him at all. So it's just pretty much like he just backstepped me with punish, and I just kept on getting lit up. And then when I was trying to think of like other stuff to do, like it just seemed like at the time like it really wasn't working, just because his backstep was just so awesome. And I was just like, well, damn. So I was like, okay, it's like, what do I do against this? And unfortunately, during the tournament, didn't adapt as fast as I should have. And yeah, I mean, I just, like I said, I just pretty much got annihilated. And just from like playing against that, like I actually learned like two valuable things. Is that one, now I know actually like, or I basically do have like a decent way of stopping backsteppers, like especially if they're gonna constantly 2-1 for you and get out of your way. So I'm like, okay, it's like with Viola, like I know like some moves that I can do now in order to actually like compensate for her weakness in terms of like basically trying to like set up some like with pokes at a very close range if anyone's gonna try to backstep you like that. And two, I actually myself was like, hey, I'm really impressed with this backstepping here, so I'm gonna really start incorporating this into my game.
That's how it always works. Something beats you, that you take it. It's like I'm stealing that strap
dude,
from.
I definitely assimilated the shit out of that.
Which
I was like, I like this. I'm gonna start using this now, and no joke. Like, I mean, I've actually been like practicing up on it a lot, and I'm not gonna say like I'm the greatest at it, but I can actually do some pretty good backstepping myself now. So when I've been like playing against other people, it's just like, ooh, like I'm noticing that this is really good because I'm making them whiff. And coincidentally enough, I mean that's exactly what I really want to do with Viola, because like one of her, I guess, areas that she shines in is whiff punishing. Of course, with that that 4/4A Brave Edge right there. So it's just kind of like, yeah, like you can really start lighting people up and just like opening holes into their defense. And like I was just really impressed with that. So I'm glad actually that I lost to that, because now like it just put that into my psyche of like, hey, this is like some good stuff that I can do myself and actually use this to my advantage instead of like just getting destroyed by it.
Yeah. So you said 4/4A Brave Edge. Did I fuck that up? I said 4B Brave Edge. Okay, I meant the whatever the 5-hit string is. That thing is retarded. But
oh yeah, it's pretty dumb. It is 4/4A AB.
Okay, gotcha. For whatever reason, I don't know why I was thinking it was B, but anyway.
Here's the thing, and like actually you were pretty much like on the right track too. Is that move normally is 4/4A then B, but like when you do the Brave Edge part, then you actually like not only do you get the original 2 hits, but then you have the orb come around 3 times as well. So I could see where you were coming from there.
Good. Okay. So, I mean, all of our listeners right now think I'm a dipshit, but at least you understand. So it's okay. So, okay. So, Ryujin aside. Okay. So what else? Tell us what you learned. Like what other things that you learned.
What's really cool. I mean, like there was actually like, even though like I said, it was a 16-man tournament, there was actually some really good competition there. And what's kind of cool is that like actually like since it was right there in Ohio, like like I knew like a few of the people that were there. It's like a few buddies that I play with at my Arcade Legacy all the time. Woohoo! Shout out to Arcade Legacy. But so it's like I had like all my buddies there, like like Derek Legend, Chabergen, aka Micah, and my boy Osiren, Nathan Shields. He was there too. Also had my buddy Rakano there. So yeah, like it's like we already had like like a decent amount of like it's our core there that like kind of usually goes to Arcade Legacy and plays and practices a lot. So that was cool. So like we actually kind of like went in and repped up. But what was really awesome is that like another one of my favorite people to play in Soul Calibur was there, and of course you already did a podcast with him. It was Mystic Bill.
Yeah.
And it is always fun to play against Bill. His Natsu is really annoying.
Well, yeah, the character just in general is annoying, so kind of goes with
like,
the territory.
No, man, dude, that 10 frame AA, it's just like, god damn, man, it's like like you just have to figure out like ways to kind of get around that. And here's the really funny thing, okay? It's like if like I've even tried to actually like go back and find the archive for like our Soul Calibur top 4 matchups. Can't find them at all for whatever reason. I guess I'll have to look deeper, or like like do some, I guess, like sleuthing in order to like find out like where those matches are. But what's kind of awesome is that like when I played against Bill in losers finals after I lost to Ryujin in winners finals, that was probably like some of the best Soul Calibur I've ever played. And what's really funny is that I wound up like winning that set 3-0, but the day before, no joke, Mystic Bill just completely destroyed me. Like we probably played like 10 or 12 games. He won every single game. He just whooped my ass. It was bad. I was just like, damn, man. Like, do I even like play this game?
Yeah, that happens sometimes, and I know. And when we were talking to Hawkeye on our last one, he didn't go into any specifics, but I mean, there were some, let's say, some pretty bad casual ass whoopings that were happening outside of that tournament that did not play out in the actual tournament. So, it happens.
Yeah.
People are like, all right, I ain't getting my ass beat that bad this time. So, and they step it up. So.
Yeah, and that was it too. Because fortunately, I've actually had I guess the privilege of playing Bill a few times before that. So it's kind of awesome. And thankfully enough, he actually lives in Indianapolis now. So that's actually not too far away from Cincinnati at all. So sometimes I'm like, hey, Bill, there's something going on in Cincinnati. You want to head down here? Be like, yeah, sure, I can make it. So it's sweet. Yeah. So me and Bill will actually get to play a few times. And yeah, like I said, it's always fun going up against his Natsu, just because his Natsu's really solid. And goddamn, dude, if you get knocked down against his Natsu, it is truly scary. It's because okay, I don't want to get up into any kind of unblockable bomb traps or anything like that. But if you don't, then you just basically roll around on the ground or wake up stupid and you get hit by something else anyway.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
So it is scary, but thankfully, it's I guess from all the times that I me and Bill have played, we just kind of we honestly kind of do go back and forth. So it's always fun, and I always learn what I can actually do against Natsu in terms of what she could set up and where her strengths lie in her offense and with her quickness essentially. So it's it's always fun to actually get a better grasp of playing against that, and then seeing what I can learn there. So that's always awesome. Another person that was actually there, and I was actually really surprised this guy showed up. Dr. Mario Kart was actually there, and he's actually a player from Austin, Texas.
Wow.
And yeah, and no joke, this actually I was baffled by
of
this.
16 people, you have somebody from Texas show up.
Some Texas actually show up. I mean, that's amazing in of itself. But what's even more amazing is that guy actually drove from Austin, Texas. Wow. And I was like, dude, I'm going to give you mad props for that, because, yeah, I would not drive that far for a game tournament. It's pretty much to me, it's just I could probably do maybe a max of 8 to 10 hour road trips or something like that. This is gonna be. I've driven to Atlanta for final round, and hell to Iowa for middle of nowhere, and NEC to Philadelphia and all that stuff. But yeah, just I can only imagine how long of a trip that has to take. And good Lord, just make that.
I for sure feel his pain, because the first year we ever went to Evo, it was still out in LA at Cal Poly, and we drove from Iowa, which is according to MapQuest at the time, and remember there was no Google Maps, I want to say that they said it was 25 hours, something like that. It was a little over a day, and I remember we did it. We were cruising triple digits the whole time, and and I want to say we did it in 20. We were proud. We were we're fucking doing this right now. So
it's we're going across the wall here.
So so I definitely feel his pain on a drive like that, because it sucks. But
oh yeah, man, and that was just crazy. When I was talking to him and he told me that, I'm like, good Lord, man, it's I was just thoroughly impressed with that, because I said, I would never do such a thing like that. I know if it was that far away, I would just have to get an airplane ticket.
For sure. Well, I never drove out to LA or the West Coast again. So that was the last time that I did that. I was like, nope, fuck this. I'm flying from now on. But
exactly, that's a smart thing to do.
So and you mentioned Osiren was there, which reminds me of another question. So it sounds like a lot of people who were at Power Up, kind of showed up for this one as well. Overall, not just Soul Calibur, but just as the entire event. Obviously, you're from Ohio, so you want to support Ohio events. So I'm not asking you to shit on either one tournament. But how would the two compare? Do you think that Power Up was better, or maybe more hype, or whatever it may be? Which one do you think kind of did it well, so to speak?
Well, you probably already know the answer to this. Of course, I'm gonna hype up Power Up. I mean, come on, that's my hometown. So, so yeah, it's like I'm definitely gonna support Power Up through and through. And I mean, no joke either. I mean, it's like as you said, like in terms of like hype, I definitely do think that Power Up certainly did it right, and like just like for a lot of games too. So that's like that's kind of like what made me happy is that it's like yeah, it's kind of like my hometown that's actually having like like a really great event. And the only thing that like that was just kind of unfortunate in terms of this I guess like running the event was that we were expecting all these people to show up and then they didn't show up. So that's kind of like what hurt because then like what wound up happening. Of course, this too. I mean, like you were there with me and helped run in the brackets and all that stuff. Is that since like the numbers didn't show up that we were expecting to show up, it made for all kinds of like really wonky pool assignments. So like, and there was like just like long intervals of time between each pool assignment as well. So it's just like it's one of those things. I guess it's just kind of like a learning thing, or like just kind of like a learning curve in terms of like, oh, okay, hey, we didn't get these many people for our tournament as we expected. So like, I guess we're just gonna have to schedule like this for the next time around. Theoretically, we did like how Nathan or how Siren actually set up the tournament was awesome.
Yeah, had you got the huge numbers, it definitely it would have ran smoothly. Absolutely.
Oh, dude, like it would have been perfect. But unfortunately, like I said, it's just like we didn't get the numbers as we were expecting. So that's what kind of made everything like a little wonky. And then it's like I know like people were kind of I guess a little bummed out about that or kind of like a little ticked off about it, which I can understand that. It was a little weird just because it's like I wish like if like we knew what we knew now. It's like hey like it's like if we aren't gonna get those numbers. Well yeah, we're definitely we'll basically run the tournaments like this. Bam, like everything would have been like so much easier and smoother. Yeah. So it's just kind of like it's one of those things. Like I said, it's just kind of like it's a learning curve. Yeah. So no big deal there. But I definitely do think like of course I'm just gonna go with Power Up and saying like that was definitely like my favorite out of the two tournaments. But definitely SummerSlam was like it was in all honesty like it was a fun tournament. It was actually like I said even though it was a major, it didn't even really feel like a major at all because I think in total for SummerSlam we probably only had about maybe a little over like 100 entrants for like everything that was going on that weekend. So it was not like a big tournament by any means or like by any standards. So like that was actually kind of cool just because it's like whatever like like your tournament was that you're in, pretty much everything was just snap, like it was done. Like no joke, like for like Soul Calibur, like our tournament like pretty much just got ran in like less than an hour, and then we were at top 4, and then we played the next day on Sunday. So it went pretty smooth actually. So like that was definitely like the cool thing there. So I guess like weighing the pluses and weighing the minuses of both like Power Up and SummerSlam. It's like both of them like I think they definitely did the stuff right, but of course at the same token always things could be done better. So
well, if I mean if this year's Power Up was any indication, there were issues with Power Up last year, and it seems obvious to me that Nathan was very receptive to the mistakes that were made and was not about to say, okay, I'm going to take your negativity and just go cry in a corner. I'm going to improve my event. And that's exactly what he did. I mean, as far as I'm aware, there weren't any, stream mishaps this year. There weren't any real big bracket mishaps. Obviously, there was a little bit of organizational issues last year, with like some cramped space and where the setups were. None of that this year, So,
dude, so much space.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he's definitely improving. So I like that a lot. So kind of veering away from season's beatings a little bit and kind of segueing into another topic. So I know that you're going to be at UFGT, obviously, and Tekken's going to be there. But my question to you, I guess, is this. What's your biggest priority right now? Now that you officially have Evo points for Soul Calibur and Evo, Tekken's not going to be at Evo this year. Is Tekken still your bigger priority going into UFGT 8, or is it going to be Calibur?
Actually, here's the funny thing. Like, essentially for SummerSlam, basically that was my Soul Calibur tournament right there. Like, that's like I was really trying to focus like all my efforts on Soul Calibur 5 and like basically just do what I needed to do in order to do my best there. But for UFGT 8, I'm gonna I guess take like a little bit of like like I shouldn't say like a break, but like I'll put like Soul Calibur just like on the side for this tournament, and I was actually gonna really concentrate on playing Tekken 6, and I also play Vampire Savior or Darkstalkers. So I was actually gonna concentrate on those two games for that tournament in Chicago instead of Soul Calibur.
Gotcha. Are you even entering Soul Calibur for UFGT, or are you just entering it and not really caring?
It's really hard to say. Like, I mean, right now, like I only registered for Tekken 6 and Vampire Savior. What kind of like actually like maybe like a little like I guess upset about UFGT is that with Soul Calibur it's going to be on Xbox. And I was just like,
yeah, that that was going to be another. My next question was, how you felt about the whole Xbox thing, and at least for me personally, I will also be at UFGT8, and I mentioned this in the podcast before, but so I'll certainly see you there, and I'm definitely going to be there for the Tekken tournament. I registered for Calibur. But I actually don't know if I'm going to be there for Calibur because when the schedule came out, I didn't realize that they were actually running a ton of games on Friday. I figured that Friday was just going to be like the lower number tournaments. So I don't know if I'm going to be in town in time for Soul Calibur, which kind of sucks. I mean, I guess I just, being a pop monster, but like, but at the end of the day, just like you mentioned, I don't know exactly what they're going to do with the whole Xbox thing. Like, I have converters, but at least the converters that I have, they require you to have a wired Xbox controller plugged in at the same time. Because but I don't know exactly how they work, but by having both controllers plugged in, it like bypasses the inputs and is able to switch them around. It's really goofy, but in either case, I've heard that they're going to have converters there at the tournament, but even if they do, how well are they going to work? And I mean, you just don't really know what's going to go on. So I'm kind of thinking like, does it even really matter that I'm going to miss Soul Calibur? Because I'm probably going to, the converter's going to shit all over my gameplay anyway. So
I know exactly, and like it was so weird just because actually like even like on the SRK thread for UFGT8, Keats originally had Tekken 6 on the Xbox. And dude, like a whole bunch was like, no.
Yeah, well, I would have to say, as far as I'm aware, Tekken, when it comes to competitive fighting games, it by far has the highest percentage of pad players. So I mean that's a really big deal. So
it is. Yeah, it's kind of weird too, just because I mean like in terms of like most of your 3D games or 3D fighting games, just kind of like Tekken and Soul Calibur. I mean, for the most part, it's ran on PlayStation or like some sort of PlayStation, like PlayStation 2 back in the days for like all like the Tekken 5 days, and now like you're coming into Tekken 6 days with it being on PS3, and yeah, that's just like the standard. I guess that's what all Tekken players expect, and like it was really weird like when we like seen it originally that it was gonna be on Xbox. We're like, oh no, like this can't be happening. So like I think like even you yourself got up on there like talked to Keats about it, and
for sure. Yeah, I was like just
like we pleaded our case. It's like, listen, this Tekken has to be on PS3, and thankfully he listened to us, and he made a change. But unfortunately for Soul Calibur, I mean, now I guess it just wasn't the case. Like I guess not enough people like like talked to him about it or anything like that, and he just stuck with having Soul Calibur on the Xbox. So like that really like as like you mentioned with like the converters, it's just like it really like kind of like worries me there, because it's like, okay, what kind of converters are these like really in the first place, in terms of like, are they PS2 like controller converters to the Xbox, or are they even like, can you put in like your PS3 wireless pad and like have it converted into that for the Xbox? Like I'm unaware of like basically like what's going on there. So I was just like,
and that's a good question too, because like the converters that I have, they're PS2. You can't put PS3 controller into it. So
I would be screwed because I play like I have two controllers, and actually I see them in my room right now. And yeah, both of them are, they're PS3 wireless controllers. One's a 6-axis and the other one's a DualShock 3. So yeah, I would pretty much be screwed.
Yeah, and one thing for our listeners there who think like maybe we're shitting on Xbox or anything, I just want to clarify some things for those who may not be pad players and don't really understand like the situation and why this stuff matters. And more than just matters, but I think this is like this is one of those things where, at least to me, it's a pretty big issue to the competitive community, because if you don't include pad players, then you're kind of missing out on a pretty big market. And personally, I think that they should start making these games for PC. That way we can have converters for PlayStation controllers or old Xbox controllers or whatever you want to use. With the USB and the way that operating systems on PCs work, it's just easier to use whatever stick or controller or whatever you want. Like, it's way easier to do that on a PS or on a PC than it is to try to do it on a console. So that's just my opinion. But for those out there who don't really understand the whole pad issue, back in the day, when you had the original PlayStation, it feels so weird saying back in the day for that, but
yeah, I know.
because like back in the day for me, it's Nintendo, it's we're like Atari. But anyway, back when you had the original PlayStation, and then Super Nintendo is when Street Fighter 2 became big and all this other stuff. The Xbox controller is natural to some people who do nothing but play Xbox, but for those who've been around for a while, who play competitive games or play games period, they're used to the style that the PlayStation has. Like, if you look at a PlayStation, obviously it's not a Nintendo controller, but it has the same sort of setup as a Nintendo controller. So that is the D-pad. All of that is what gamers who've been around, who have been alive longer than 20 years of age, that's the kind of setup that they're used to. So it's not only are there like practical issues to why the D-pad on the PS is better, but it's just like it's ingrained in our blood. And then when the PlayStation came out, even once the Xbox came out, around the PS2 sort of time frame, all of the competitive fighting games were still played on the PlayStation. As far as I'm aware, there weren't really any big games that were played primarily on the Xbox. I mean, Street Fighter was played on the PS2, Marvel. I know there were a lot of people who played on what is the Sega system? Why the hell? Dreamcast. The Dreamcast. I know there were a lot of people who played Dreamcast as well, which kind of started the whole Xbox controller thing, because if you look at that controller, it resembles the Xbox. But I mean, this is a big issue. And if you look at Soul Calibur, I would wager that more people play who are pad players primarily and not stick. More people who play Soul Calibur, and oddly enough, just 3D games in general, play more on PlayStation than they do Xbox. So as far, and this is when we were talking about Tekken just a moment ago, it's a big issue, because if you don't include people who play on pad, that means those players can't play. And when we were making our argument on SRK with Keats, and you remember this, Keats, but a big part of our argument was, okay, if you have this on Xbox, the converter issue is such a big issue that you're going to have a lot of people who aren't even going to want to show up for it and deal with it. And last year, there were less than 16 people who entered Tekken. So if you do it on Xbox this year, and you didn't get 16 people last year when the game was, comparatively speaking, more dead than it was right now, you might as well not even run it, because you're going to get 2 people who show up.
More or less.
Yeah. So I mean, we got really, really lucky this year, because I think he what did he say? He posted on Tekken Zaibatsu and said that we already got like over 32 people, or we were really close or something like that. So we already by far exceeded expectations for this year. But I mean, if that hadn't have been on PS3, again, it probably wouldn't have even been run or worth it to run. And Soul Calibur kind of has that same issue. And it's really important For those who think it might not be, for Soul Calibur, because just look around and look at all of the big names that play on pad. We just interviewed Hawkeye. Everyone's been talking about Hawkeye. Mick, who he won Power Up. He's a pad player. RTD is a pad player. Thuggish is a pad player. Hates plays on stick. Who else plays on pad? There's a guy. I know there's at least a couple more really big names that play on pad. But I mean, you have all of these big names that play on pad, and now they're essentially excluded from the tournament because they're not going to play. And when we interviewed Hawkeye last episode, if I remember correctly, he said he wasn't going to go to UFGT. He didn't know it was on Xbox to begin with. I mean, that was news to him when we were recording that podcast. And you figure UFGT is 2 weeks away from today, so it was only 3 weeks away when we did that recording, and he didn't even know it was on Xbox. But he's not even going to go. And granted, he has bigger priorities. He wants that cash money in Anaheim for MLG. But I mean, that's a huge name right now. I mean, Hawkeye is the creme de la creme of the U.S. scene right now. I mean, he just beat up on Kevin Kayane, and now you're not even going to have him at your tournament. And, he was thinking about it. He was up in the air, but then he's like, oh, well, never mind. I'm not even going to worry about it. Why would it go?
Well, here's the great thing. So, is Hawkeye even from Chicago?
Oh, yeah. He's from Chicago. Yeah. And so, you have a Chicago native who's not even going to go to the tournament. And again, I just mentioned he has other priorities, so the Xbox thing isn't the only reason, but now it's just additional reason for him not to go. So, I mean, this is a really big issue. And again, when I kind of started this whole rant, so to speak, I mentioned the PC thing, and I really wish that more games would do that. Like, I understand being platforms specific. You have these fucking contracts and all this other bullshit, but it would, after last year's Evo, for everyone who went to last year's Evo, they actually emailed everyone and gave them free copies of Street Fighter 4 for download on PC. So what was it, Street Fighter 4? Maybe it was Street Fighter 3. I can't remember. But there was a free download of one of the games, and it's obvious that they can do it. It's like, you can make the game for PC, so why not just do it? And then anybody who wants to use whatever they want can. I think that's an easy fix, but I think their biggest problem, or at least their biggest concern, is the fact that at least right now consoles are much bigger than PCs are. PCs are starting to die out. In fact, I would go so far as to say the only reason that PCs are still even a big business is Blizzard. That's it. Blizzard alone is keeping the fucking PC alive, but
more or less,
all this other, Diablo's coming out and StarCraft. So, but anyway, end rant. So that's all I have to say about that. But
no, it's a good rant. I approved of it.
So hopefully, people, because I've had this issue at our monthlies every once in a while because, like you mentioned, most tournaments do PS3 rather than Xbox. And I know there's a lot of Street Fighter players out there that prefer to play on the Xbox because, I don't play Street Fighter, but I guess, there's slowdown issues and et cetera, et cetera. So, and they always think that it's some sort of brand whoring thing. Like, they're like, oh my God, everybody's a Sony. I've actually heard people make that argument where it's like, oh, you're such a Sony whore. Why don't you use Xbox? It's so much better. Honestly, I don't care. I hate both PlayStation and Xbox. I'm dead serious. This is real talk for everybody out there. I hate consoles because they're becoming far too what's the God damn it, I'm so blanking. I'm way tired. Damn it, that's gonna piss me off.
Can't think of the word.
Oh my God, I feel like such a dumbass right now. The word that I'm looking for, it means prioritize. Oh God. So it's specific to that. You can only go to that one. Oh my God, that's going to piss me off. But anyway, so, in order to, there's some games that only come out on PS or Xbox, and there's some games that only come out on console and et cetera, et cetera. And consoles are essentially shitty laptops, they're just really bad.
Yeah.
So I don't brand horse Sony or Microsoft. I hate them both equally. Let's put it that way. So for those who just heard, that rant for pad players and whatnot, I don't take it as a I hate Microsoft thing. It's I wish we had a more universal option sort of thing.
That would be nice, actually. I agree with you. This is
Well,
that is kind of
well, and if
stuff,
you, I
actually.
mean, for anybody who is a hardcore fighting game player who's been, out to competitive events and so on and so forth, you've seen people who bring their laptops and they play Third Strike on it, or they play other 2D games. Like, it's possible. Like, I know it's possible. They're just not doing it. They're not making these games for the newer games for PC for whatever, contractual reason. Who knows? But I think it's really stupid, and I think it would help a lot if they branched out, especially for the competitive scene, because you wouldn't have these sorts of issues. But anyway, so back to stuff that matters. So we're talking UFGD. Okay, so it sounds like Tekken is your bigger priority. We already mentioned that Tekken is not going to be at Evo, and you said that SummerSlam was like your main SC event. Are you going to use those Evo points at all? Are you going to be at Evo this year?
I was thinking about it. I mean, like, I'll say this, if I can actually wind up having the money to go to Evo, hell yeah, I'll definitely go to Evo. I mean, and why not use those points that I guess essentially earned for SummerSlam. So, and plus, in all honesty, I've never been to Evo before, so damn, would that be awesome to actually go to and actually just experience that and like to see like what Evo essentially is all about. Like, that would be just so freaking amazing, I think.
Wait, so, have you never been to Evo?
No,
never
have.
Didn't know that. For some reason, I thought you were there last year. That's weird.
Nope, not at all.
I mean, for those out there who are planning to go to Evo, and this includes you, Sluch, you better start planning ahead now, because they already had that issue with the what they call spectator passes. So
you have to. Well, I saw on like just basically like all the fighting game forums that they're essentially like you had to get like the $50 spectator pass if you wanted to be there on Sunday, but then I think they
brought it down to 10.
Actually brought it down to 10 from what I saw the last time. So yeah, like I actually saw that and I was like, holy shit.
So yeah, I mean, it's filling up fast. So for people who are planning on going, I mean, I have a feeling that a lot of gamers are trying to find cheaper options than Caesar's Palace, but I mean, you figure I wouldn't be surprised at all if they're starting to max out on their reservation limit, for the specialized Evo price. So, oh, and by the way, the word that I was thinking of, proprietary. I don't know why I could not remember it, but that's what I was thinking about. Gaming consoles are far too proprietary. Okay, anyway, so now that I feel better about myself,
you're like, yes, I found the word.
Well, it really irritates me anytime that happens, and I have a brain fart like that, because I'm an English major. I have a degree in English. I'm a writer. I should not forget words like that. But I'm going to blame it on the fact that I'm tired. So.
You know what? That's always a good reason. It's like, hey, like I had a lack of sleep.
Exactly. It's been a long weekend, so we're just going to blame it on that. But so the Evo thing is especially interesting because I know I've mentioned it on our podcast before, where I kind of think that it's time for Evo to take that next step and kind of turn themselves into an official league of sorts. And this is just proving my point. Like, Evo itself is getting so big that I mean, at what point do you say, okay, we're getting too many people, we can't fit them all in one place, so we need to split it up a little bit. And I can't even imagine. I wish I could remember exactly how many people they had last year, but I want to say it was like total entries was like 3,000 or 4,000 people, and those are just the players, not the spectators. So if you're getting 3,000 or 4,000 people for 6 games, I think they have. If you're getting that many people for 6 games, it's time to turn yourself into a league and then limit each tournament to just a few hundred people, and then everything else is spectator. I mean, I think it's time for them to do that. You're already
that smart thing to do.
I mean, they're now running into logistical issues that they really haven't had in the past, and I mean, that's just such a huge indicator to me. Like, it's time to do something different. I know that they love to have the moniker open, open tournament, but I mean, at some point you get so big, you just can't do it anymore. So it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, like I'm honestly thinking like, how the hell do you like run a bracket that has just hundreds upon
Yeah.
hundreds of people? Like,
Well,
my
essentially
God,
what they
that would.
do is they have, I mean, the rooms, they have these gigantic ballrooms. It's Vegas, so there's all sorts of conventions that happen in Vegas. So these hotels are built for conventions that have thousands of people. So the ballrooms are big enough really to fit, a few thousand people and whatnot. So they have so many setups, but they essentially did what Power Up did. They break it into 32-man brackets, and then they run it to the winner and loser on each side of the bracket. So 2 people come out of every 32. I want to say that's how they did it last year. So I mean, they have it broken down in 32-man tournaments, and then they do it later, and pretty much exactly how Power Up did. They run all the pool brackets, and then they coming in later to do like a full 64, or, however many man bracket to close it out. So, but they have a lot more stations and whatnot.
Oh yeah, have to.
Yeah, so I mean, they get it done, and like I actually was an impromptu judge and bracket runner last year because they didn't have enough. They actually had the stations and the areas available. They just didn't have enough people to run the brackets. So there were some bracket issues just because they didn't have enough staff available. But again, that happens. The logistical stuff's going to start to bite you when you get so big. But so enough of the Evo talk, though, since you're still up in the air about that. What other events aside from UFGT are you going to be at here in the near future? Is that the only one really that you're looking at right now, or?
That's pretty much like really the only one I was looking at right now. Like, of course, like here in Cincinnati, like we have a whole bunch of like stuff going on at Arcade Legacy, so I'll probably be going to like pretty much all of that or mostly all of that, just because it's right here in my hometown. In terms of like other things, I am not too sure like what I was really thinking about doing or thinking about planning. So it's just, I guess it is kind of weird for me just because it's like, like I said, at heart, I'm still a Tekken player. And right now it's just at that weird time where it's like pretty much, in all honesty, UFGT 8 will probably be like one of the last Tekken 6 tournaments before Tekken Tag 2 drops in September. So I'm just kind of thinking, well, damn, like what am I actually gonna go to next?
No, I understand that. My next thing is Diablo. We've mentioned it, so I'm gonna be cracking out on that until Tag comes out. But that's how it goes. But speaking of offline play, it sounds like other than UFGT, kind of up in the air until Tekken comes out. But one thing that I've had a few people ask about. That we haven't really focused too much on in the other podcast that I'd like to start to change a little bit. We have, good players and big name players, obviously, who are coming onto this podcast. And a lot of people want to know, like, how you train, like what your training regimen is. So pretty much the best question that I can ask to approach that is, aside from, just in general, how often you play and whatnot, what sorts of things are you focusing on when you practice Caliber that maybe not everyone does?
Okay, well, I guess in terms of Soul Calibur, I mean, like I usually do like one of the most typical things, of course, is that you go into training mode, and of course, you work on all your combos and all your juggles. I mean, that's just kind of like first and foremost. And I think especially like with me as a Viola player, I definitely have to do that just because what's kind of odd about Viola is that like a lot of her juggles actually they do take like certain timing and knowing like when you need to hit certain moves and like certain points of like where you have like people popped up in the air or when they're down on the ground to pop them back up for your juggles. So it to me like I do put like a lot of time into that, but mostly if I'm like not really doing that, I'll try to do like character specific training in general. And like especially like if like I feel like, hey, this character like I'm kind of having like issues with them, so I'll actually start training up on this character and like seeing like what I can do as a Viola player to actually get around like some of their stuff or like what I can punish, like what can I like what can I step, what can I actually, tech crouch and, like and crush them. It's just like I look and think like of all those things. Like what can I just guard? What can I, GI? What, and especially with Viola, she has a parry. What can I parry? So I always look for like all that stuff, like especially like character specifics and like no joke, like probably in the next day or two, I'm actually gonna really buckle down and do some hardcore Leisha training because I hate playing that character.
No, I understand that. I actually the MLG online thing aside, like that thing has actually turned to complete ass. But I still believe that it's for all those people who want to get games in with the top players and may not be in a position to do so, still a really good outlet for that. And when I've been so fucking busy the last week, but when I've had an opportunity to play, I've actually I've made people that I know in real life that maybe I don't know their PSN, I've actually been able to grab that. And speaking of Leisha, I've actually played Mick a few matches.
Nice.
So I definitely understand the Leisha hate. Although, oddly enough, as much trouble as I have with that character, I actually have a lot more trouble with Mitsurugi. Like, way more trouble. Like,
you know what? Like, Mitsurugi is... I could definitely say, like, he's in my top 5 in Soul Calibur 5. Like, he's a really good character. I mean, like, overall, he's really balanced, and he has, like, a lot of great options and tools just to...
Well, there's two things about him that just, like, fuck me up really bad. And the first is that he's really fast. He's a lot faster than you would think he is. Yeah.
You would think
because you're like,
true.
Okay, you have Natsu, duh. She's a fast character. But you look at Mitsu, and you're like, okay, maybe he's a little fast, but he's faster than you at first think. And then he's super good at spacing. Like all of his moves, he has to take a risk sometimes, but if you're good at judging your opponent, his like I know he has this what is it, like sway back B or whatever the fuck it is, like a little sway back and then he pokes forward. Like his moves just incorporate spacing so well. I am with City when I play against that character. Like it's just it sucks. It's like the worst vacation ever, You're like, man, this city fucking sucks. I hate this place. But
and it is kind of crazy too, because even with Mitsurugi, I mean, like he not only like can he like space real well and he just has like good tools, but goddamn, when he hits you, it hurts. And like no joke, it's like his juggles or like his combos are like really easy. Yeah. I mean, it's like something that's really high damaging only takes like 2 or 3 hits. And it's just like, what the hell? Like, he barely had to do anything, and goddamn, look at my life. Like, it is just, like, absolutely crazy. So it's just like, okay, it's like, Mitsu could do all this, and how, like, me as a Viola player, like, I have to do so many hits, and, like, my job was, like, just actually get the damage. And true, like, Viola can definitely get that damage now. Thank you, post-patch. But... But it's just kind of like, damn, man, like, you look at what Mitsurugi could do, and it is really scary, man.
So that's an interesting thing, to kind of go back to your whole training regimen, that you go in and you focus just on one character. That's even with Tekken, like that's something that, I consider that to be my best game, but, I can't say that I go in and focus on matchups and just sit there and like practice against one character.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. Like especially in Tekken, like God, I mean, like what's really funny is that kind of like sort of like what I do like with Tekken, I sort of do with Soul Calibur as well. And pretty much like for Tekken, like what I do is that I know who like my main character is. Of course, like in Tekken, it's Alyssa. And then I'll sit down and basically just in training mode, get into defensive training, and then basically like check out, hey, what character do I want to fight against, and like want to know like how to punish, how to get around their moves, like what can I step, what can I duck, like how safe is this move, how unsafe is that move. I'll just sit there and I'll do that, and then I'll just rifle through like all the characters that I either have trouble with or that I know that I'll actually see like at like a tournament that I'm going to next, and then essentially I basically do the same thing in Soul Calibur. So like I'll sit down in just training mode in Soul Calibur, be like, okay, it's just like I know I'll probably be playing against like this person or that person, so I'm gonna pick Viola, of course, and then I'll pick like I said, like I'll pick like Leisha this week, and then basically what I'll do is like I'll actually just go through Leisha's move list, and then I'll put the command capture on, and basically just do moves, block afterwards, see what I can actually like. Hey, like what can I do like to get around like this move or that move? Is it unsafe? Is this safe? Is there point in this where I can actually step? Can I do I have a good chance of actually like parrying this stuff? Can I tech crouch? Can I tech step? Anything just to kind of get around certain things. Because like no joke, like these like past few weeks, like a good buddy of mine actually started going to Arcade Legacy. His name's Ragnarok, and he's an awesome player, by the way. Like he actually lives around the Dayton area. Every time I've played his Leisha, he has just destroyed me. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I actually need to find out how to fight against Leisha, because good lord, like she is so safe, and I'm like, how do I get around stuff? Because like once I block something, it's like, oh, okay, it's like, well, I could probably interrupt with this. Nope, can't do that. Oh, okay, well, if I block this certain move, maybe I could step. No, you can't do that either. So it's just kind of like, all right, what do I actually need to do in order to figure out, hey, like how do I get around these moves so I can actually set myself up better in order to establish like my game plan, or actually what I want to do when I play that matchup. So it's basically like in terms of like training, that's like really what I try to look out for.
Just one character at a time.
So yeah, basically one character at a time, and then it's like like I mean, it's like I could probably like I can do like several characters in a day too, or like heck, like even like let's say like for like a tournament, like how I prep up, like I'll usually go through like the whole roster and basically just do the same thing for each and every character, just to like get that kind of stuff like ingrained, like hey, this is this move, this is what it looks like, and then just go through all the options that like I just stated previously, like are moves safe, are they unsafe, can I step them, can I like I said, can I crouch somewhere, like if it's a string, can I parry it, all that kind of stuff. It's just that's the things I really try to look out for in terms of my training. And in all honesty, like it's not only just like for like the realm of Tekken or the realm of Soul Calibur, but like any fighting game, I think if you do that, just doing your homework, it sets you up for success. So it's like, why not do that stuff?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I've done a lot of homework sessions as well, so I definitely understand.
Oh that.
Yeah. Well, that's for the most part, that's pretty much all the questions I had. But we've been chatting for a while, so I'm sure people listening are probably getting sick of us by now. So kind of as a little ender, you've already done this over on the Tekken side, but obviously people listening to this probably don't listen to the Tekken podcast. But so at the end of the podcast, I like to ask our guests and have them rant and get their soapbox and stuff. Honestly, I can't even remember what you ranted on for the Tekken one, so whatever you say, this will still be brand new to me. And so in that case, I'm going to ask you to get mad, tell people what you really, really hate, and just go off. So pick something, anything. It doesn't have to be Soul Calibur related. It can be whatever you want. Or it may be somebody, cut you off today when you're driving to work, and you just want to fucking rail on that person for, a couple minutes, whatever you want to do.
Well, okay, here's the funny thing. If anyone knows me and like knows how I am, I'm a very carefree and easygoing guy. But if things piss me off, they'll definitely piss me off. And what's really funny is I actually remembered from the Tekken podcast what I got mad at before, and that was basically my work, like where I used to work at my restaurant, and how shitty the schedule was. Okay, so let me further continue to I guess develop this
hate
topic
for the schedule.
Oh yeah, actually no, it's far worse, Scott. It's far worse. Okay, so as I said, with most restaurant jobs, that's where I used to work. Okay, and, yeah, taking into consideration used to work. Essentially I got fired from my job. Okay,
they listen to the Tekken podcast. Oh no. They heard you.
They didn't listen to the Tekken podcast or anything, but basically how like I got mad before is that with any kind of like restaurant type of environment or restaurant type of job, usually your busiest days are going to be weekends, of course, and you always like work nights primarily. So it pretty much just kind of like craps on like any kind of like like I guess like really like I guess good like personal schedule that you want to have on the weekends. Like if you want to do anything, you pretty much you have to request off work. Okay. So here's the funny thing. Okay. The reason why I got fired is because of final round down in Atlanta. When I went down to Atlanta, I actually, of course, like I did the normal thing I did at my restaurant where I worked at. Is that if you take time off, you gotta fill out like the proper paperwork, let your managers know, and then basically just like they gotta approve that, of course, and then if everything's good, then yeah, you're good to go on your vacation. Well, what's kind of crazy is that like I actually did all that stuff, okay? And what was really jankety about the situation is that typically speaking, like with protocol there, like at the restaurant I used to work at, if your vacation time gets approved, all's copacetic. Like they actually don't say a damn thing to you. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like everything's like, all good to go, and I don't have to worry about, anything like, oh, I'm gonna get fired because, my vacation time is getting approved. Usually, like, if everything's approved, they don't say stuff to you, or they don't say a thing to you, and all your stuff's good to go. But if you actually do get vacation time denied, then what I was used to in my protocol there was that my my own boss, the boss that that hired me there, he would come up and talk to me, be like, "Hey, Mike, just give you a heads up, vacation time got denied for so and so reason." Okay, cool. So like if it did get denied, then at least you know why, and that was what's up. And I know that's how the protocol was because I've had both ends of the spectrum where I've had vacation time approved and denied, and both those things happen. So I know that's how the protocol was. But what was kind of weird for like final round weekend was that the week came and like I was basically about to leave down for Atlanta for that weekend, and no one said anything at my work. Okay, so I'm like, okay, everything's cool. So I go down to final round, have fun in Atlanta, do my thing down there, and then when I came back to work the next week, I wound up actually getting suspended, and then I actually got fired from that suspension just because what they said to me was that I did a no call, no show. And I'm like, no, I didn't. How can I do a no call, no show when I actually filled out all the proper paperwork? And basically, what really happened was that I guess like the human resources department there, my restaurant, checked in and everything. They're like, yeah, it's like your boss actually denied you of your vacation. I'm like, well, if he did, then why did he not tell me? So let's just say that's really sketchy, and yeah, like that's really fucked up considering that, hey, if this is how like protocol to be, that's how protocol should be, instead of this making like doing something weird and all of a sudden, hey, this protocol is completely changed, we're just gonna get rid of you because we want to get rid of you. And that was really messed up. And dude, I can't begin to tell you how much that chapped my ass.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. And I work for a very big company, Fortune 500 shit, and I don't trust any fucking manager there ever. So I'm like, nope, anything I want, I need paperwork. You need to sign this. You need to do something because I need my fucking copies because I don't trust you as far as I can throw you, and most people there are fat. So. So it's just not happening.
Yeah, it's very true too, and just it kind of sucked because like of course now like I'm unemployed, I'm trying to basically find a job, I'm trying to actually get unemployment, which by the way that's a pain in the ass as well, just because it takes like a long time for like your unemployment to actually get approved. I'm still it's basically been on like essentially 2 months now, and I'm still waiting to hear back on that. So that's another thing that pisses me off. So it's just kind of like, really? It's like, wow, all this bullshit should not even happen in the first place, but it did. Oh, well. Fuck it all. Working in a restaurant sucks. Yeah. Fuck them.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I've my family, I've had a bunch of family members that have done the whole restaurant, bar thing for a long time. For a very short period of my life, I want to say for like 6-7 months, I worked at a bar as a cook. And it was only an interim thing. I was like, I'm waiting for another job to hire me, the job I'm at now, actually. And I was like, I do not plan on doing this for very long. So it definitely sucks.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah, it's so like, oh, I was gonna say it's like, yeah, it's like now I'm like, okay, it's just like since I'm done with all this bullshit, I'm definitely trying to like look for a better job now, of course. So it's like kind of like like a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 type of gig. Actually try to use my BA, like actually use my college degree, so it actually like matters, I guess. So it's like okay, it's like so I've been trying to go down that road. As I said, it's a little difficult, trying to find a job in this day and age. It's definitely not as easy as it was, several years ago, like before, like all the, bullshit happened. Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of like, it's I guess like you could say I'm kind of pissed off about that too, but it is what it is. It's its own.
Life is forcing you to do something better. Like
exactly. So it's like I do see it as like a good opportunity. So it's just like it kind of sucks, but at the same time, thankfully, like I saved up, a decent amount of money, so I'm not like fucked.
Well, at least you saved up for a rainy day. I actually had a friend who he was living with his parents and he worked at US Cellular, one of their call centers, and he saved up a ton of money. And for all those out there who don't live in how should I put this? I don't want to say rural areas, but low cost areas. There's a lot of places in the Midwest where standard of living is very low. So he had saved up a few $1,000s, and a few $1,000s can last you a long time here in Iowa, a long time. And he pretty much just saved up a bunch of money and then quit, and now he's a bum. And now he has no money. So he saved up money just so that he could quit and spend it and then not do anything. So at least you're using it for emergency and not because you're a bum.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
So yeah. Well, interesting story. Glad we could hear you rant and rave about that. I actually like little stories like that, but glad we can get to hear it. Well, that's really all that I have. A couple little shout outs that I do want to do before we end the podcast. Shout out to Di for the interview time that he's doing over at 8-Way Run. I noticed that at least his most recent one was with Spanish player. Which is really awesome because we focus because 8-Way Run is it's obviously focused here on the States because they own it here in the States. But it's always nice to get to hear from the international players. And I'm still my promise is still out there to our listeners. I'm gonna try to get Kiev or Keane on this podcast. It would be fucking awesome if we could do that. But shout outs to Di for doing his thing with the interview, and also shout outs to Bibulus for the whole guest commentary thing. I think it was actually started by Hates, but Bibulus has kind of taken it under his wing, and he's been doing most of those articles. So shout outs to him, and in the future, shout outs to anyone else who decides to help him out and do some guest commentary stuff. And that's really all I have. Any last minute shout outs or anything that you want to say that we didn't get to, Sluch?
Oh, definitely. So, actually, like I said, I just wanted to give a shout outs once again to Arcade Legacy, just because, goddamn, it's so awesome to actually have a arcade in the city that you're from, and it's basically just a wonderful environment, and it's it creates an environment where it's not only can you meet other players that of course share the same passion that you do, but you can also strive and improve to get better and to be the best at the games that you want to play. So. Thank you very much, Arcade Legacy. Also, thank you very much just to all my Cincinnati, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, and Northern Kentucky, family. It's just I love all the guys in the fighting game community, and they're fucking awesome. And I guess I might be a little bit biased, but I definitely think just in terms of how everyone is here in our scene, I love our community, and our community is just awesome because everyone's just so cool and chilled and laid back. So that's really cool. And I also just definitely want to give one final shout out to, like I said, my buddy Ragnarok. Not only is he a Lacia player, but he actually is a awesome viola player as well. So I actually learned just a lot of viola, I guess, goodness just from talking to him, and we converse and we go back and forth, and it's just kind of awesome to have another player that's at high level that's really good that you can actually trade things back and forth with and just learn and improve and get even better is the character that you want to play. So that's really awesome as well. But Yeah, rather not. That'd be it
All
on my
right,
end too.
very nice. Always, giving love to the fighting game community. For those out there, promoting and being selfless. Let's put it that way. People helping out wherever they can. So with that, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, Sluch. We really appreciate it. And depending on what happens once we get to the character specific stuff, we might have you come back for the Viola stuff. And aside from that, again, just to reiterate to everybody, we are going to have Ryujin on. I know people have been asking about him for a few weeks now. So we'll definitely get to him. He's actually been sick lately, so it's been a little hard to schedule stuff with him. But we'll definitely get to that. And as always, we're going to keep doing this as long as people are listening and enjoying these podcasts. We're going to keep doing it, and I'm excited to get to the character specific stuff. I actually have some video stuff planned that we're going to try to work out. So hopefully that'll be pretty awesome. Other than that, get out to these Evo qualifiers, get out to events. There's big hype going on, especially for Soul Calibur. NetherRealms just announced that they were going to give some extra money to the MK stuff. So if we keep showing up and keep posting up numbers, Namco will do the same thing. And obviously, MLG's giving out mad bucks. So be sure to do that. Other than that, that is all I have, people. Thank you for listening, and we will most likely be back next week. But even if not next week, UFGT is right around the corner, so expect more from us. Thanks for taking a listen. We will catch you later.